the radical revolution of self-love, embracing imperfection in a perfect world. Welcome to the Black CEO Podcast. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into a topic that has the power to transform lives and reshape our entire understanding of what it means to truly love ourselves. We're incredibly fortunate to have gained invaluable insights from Dr. Nia Jones, a visionary psychologist and researcher whose groundbreaking work is revolutionizing the field of self-love and personal growth. Dr. Jones isn't just changing lives, she's igniting a global movement that challenges everything we thought we knew about self-worth and acceptance. Imagine for a moment that everything you've been taught about self-love is wrong. What if the path to truly loving yourself isn't paved with flawless selfies and constant positivity, but instead with embracing your flaws and vulnerabilities? This is the radical truth that Dr. Jones has uncovered, and it's a perspective that's about to turn your world upside down. We live in a society obsessed with perfection. Our social media feeds are curated highlight reels showcasing only the best moments of our lives. Magazine covers airbrush away every perceived flaw, presenting an unattainable ideal of beauty. Even our self-help gurus often preach a gospel of unwavering confidence and perpetual happiness. But what if this relentless pursuit of perfection is actually the very thing holding us back from truly loving ourselves? Dr. Jones proposes something revolutionary. True self-love isn't about being perfect or constantly happy. It's about embracing our imperfections as an integral, beautiful part of who we are. It's about giving ourselves grace on the days when we feel utterly unworthy, forgiving ourselves when we fall short, and still believing we are enough, even when the world tries to convince us otherwise. I know what you're thinking. This sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? After all, shouldn't loving ourselves mean striving to be our best selves at all times? But let's pause for a moment and really consider the immense pressure this puts on us. The expectation of constant self improvement, of always being on, of never showing weakness. It's not just exhausting, it's downright impossible. Dr. Jones's research reveals a startling truth. The moments when we feel the most broken, the most vulnerable, are often the times when we're actually growing the most. It's in these raw, imperfect moments that we have the opportunity to practice real, profound self love. Because self love isn't a destination we reach once we've achieved some arbitrary level of success or perfection. It's a daily, deliberate choice we make, especially when it feels the hardest to do so. Let's dive deeper into this concept by exploring three key insights from Dr. Jones's groundbreaking work. First, embracing vulnerability is crucial for true self love and self acceptance. This means being open to discomfort and uncertainty, which can lead to deeper self awareness and personal growth. Now, I can almost hear the collective intake of breath. Vulnerability, that sounds terrifying. And you're right, it can be. We've been conditioned to view vulnerability as weakness, to hide our flaws and insecurities. But what if we've got it all wrong? Dr. Jones shared a powerful story with me about a group of individuals who participated in a vulnerability workshop. These participants were initially resistant to the idea of opening up about their fears and insecurities, but as they began to share, something remarkable happened. They found that by being honest about their struggles, they formed deeper, more authentic connections with others. More importantly, they began to accept themselves more fully. One participant, Sarah, had always felt she needed to project an image of having it all together. She was successful in her career, had a picture perfect family, and seemed to have it all. But inside, she was struggling with feelings of inadequacy and imposter syndrome. When she finally opened up about these feelings in the workshop, she was shocked to find that many others felt the same way. This realization allowed her to start accepting her doubts and insecurities as a normal part of the human experience, rather than evidence of her unworthiness. The lesson here is profound. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage. It's the strength to be authentically ourselves, imperfections and all. And it's through this authenticity that we can truly begin to love ourselves. This brings us to our second key insight. Self-acceptance is crucial for building self-worth and confidence. It involves recognizing that perfection is an illusion and that true authenticity lies in being unapologetically ourselves. Dr. Jones shared another compelling story about a man named John. John had spent years trying to conform to societal standards of success. He pursued a high-paying career he didn't enjoy, maintained a lifestyle that didn't align with his values, and constantly compared himself to others. Despite achieving what many would consider success, John felt empty and unfulfilled. It wasn't until John began to embrace his true passions and quirks his love for abstract art, his preference for quiet evenings at home over flashy social events, his unconventional career aspirations, that he started to feel truly confident and worthy. By accepting himself fully, flaws and all, John was able to build a life that felt authentic and fulfilling. This story illustrates a powerful truth. We can't hate ourselves into a version of ourselves that we can love. Self acceptance isn't about lowering our standards or giving up on growth. It's about acknowledging that we are worthy of love and respect exactly as we are, while still leaving room for growth and improvement. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, but if I accept myself as I am, won't I lose my motivation to improve? This is a common concern, but Dr. Jones's research suggests the opposite is true. When we come from a place of self acceptance, we're actually more likely to make positive changes in our lives. Why? Because we're no longer driven by fear and self loathing, but by self love and a genuine desire for growth. This leads us to our third and final key insight. Self love is not a destination, but a daily practice. It involves giving ourselves grace, forgiving ourselves, and believing in our worthiness, even when we feel broken or unworthy. Dr. Jones shared a powerful analogy with me. She said, think of self love like brushing your teeth. You don't brush your teeth once and expect them to stay clean forever. You do it daily, sometimes multiple times a day. Self love is the same way. It's not something you achieve once and then you're done. It's a practice you commit to every single day. This daily practice of self love can take many forms. It might be setting boundaries to protect your mental health. It could be speaking to yourself with kindness and compassion, especially when you make mistakes. It might involve taking care of your physical health or pursuing activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Dr. Jones shared a story about a woman named Maria who struggled with perfectionism and negative self talk. Maria decided to commit to a daily practice of self love. Every morning, she would look in the mirror and say three things she appreciated about herself, and not just physical attributes, but character traits, accomplishments, or even simple acts of kindness she had performed. At first, Maria felt silly and struggled to come up with things to say. But as she persisted, she found it became easier. She began to notice more positive things about herself throughout the day. Her inner dialogue became kinder. She found herself more resilient in the face of challenges and setbacks. The key here is consistency. Maria didn't transform overnight. There were days when she didn't feel like doing her self love practice, days when she struggled to find anything positive to say. But she persisted, understanding that self love is a journey, not a destination. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually put it into practice in our daily lives? How do we embrace vulnerability, practice self acceptance, and commit to daily self love in a world that often seems to demand perfection? Here's where things get really interesting. Dr. Jones proposes that the very act of choosing self love in a world that often encourages self criticism is a radical act of rebellion. It's a way of saying, I refuse to let external standards dictate my worth. I choose to love myself, not in spite of my imperfections, but because of them. This perspective shift can be incredibly empowering. Instead of seeing self love as another thing we need to perfect, we can view it as an ongoing journey of self discovery and growth. We can celebrate our efforts to love ourselves, no matter how small or imperfect they may seem. Dr. Jones encourages us to start small. Maybe it's taking a few minutes each day to practice mindfulness or gratitude. Perhaps it's setting one small boundary to protect your energy. It could be simply pausing when you notice negative self talk and asking yourself, would I speak this way to a friend? The beauty of this approach is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need any special skills or resources to start practicing self love. You just need the willingness to try, to be patient with yourself, and to persist even when it feels challenging. But let's be clear, this isn't just about feeling good about ourselves. The implications of Dr. Jones's work go far beyond individual well being. Imagine a world where everyone practiced radical self love. How would our relationships change? Our workplaces, our communities, our entire society? When we truly love and accept ourselves, we're more likely to treat others with compassion and understanding. We're more likely to stand up against injustice because we recognize the inherent worth in every human being. We're more likely to pursue our passions and make meaningful contributions to the world because we believe in our own capabilities. This is why Dr. Jones's work is so revolutionary. She's not just helping individuals, she's laying the groundwork for a more compassionate, authentic, and empowered society. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge, a call to action that has the power to transform not just your life, but the world around you. Starting today, I challenge you to embrace your imperfections, to look in the mirror, and instead of focusing on what you want to change, find one thing you love about yourself, to speak to yourself with the same kindness and compassion you'd offer a dear friend, to open up to someone you trust about something you're struggling with, embracing the power of vulnerability. I challenge you to question the standards of perfection that society has imposed on you, to ask yourself, well, who would I be if I didn't have to be perfect? To imagine what you could accomplish if you weren't held back by fear of failure or judgment. I challenge you to make self love a daily practice, to set aside time each day, even if it's just a few minutes, to nurture your relationship with yourself, to forgive yourself when you fall short, to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. And most importantly, I challenge you to spread this message, to be a living example of what it looks like to love yourself fully and authentically, to encourage others to do the same, to create spaces where vulnerability is welcome, where imperfections are celebrated, where self love is the norm, not the exception. Because here's the truth: in a world that profits from your self doubt, loving yourself is an act of rebellion. It's a statement that you refuse to be defined by anyone else's standards. It's a declaration that you are worthy of love and respect exactly as you are. So, are you ready to join this revolution? Are you ready to embrace your imperfections, to practice radical self love, to change not just your life, but the world around you? Remember, you are not broken. You do not need fixing. You are perfectly imperfect, beautifully flawed, and worthy of love and belonging. Not because you've achieved some arbitrary standard of perfection, but because you are you, unique, complex, and irreplaceable. The journey of self love starts now. It starts with you, and it has the power to change everything. Thank you.